All right, everyone, get ready for an incredible episode of David's Saturday Night Sit Back as we welcome the talented and hilarious Katie Felton to the show. Katie has been lighting up stand-up comedy scene in Austin, Texas since 2019. She's had the honor of opening for renowned comedians like Jared Freed and Katie Hannigan, and she's shared the stage with comedy greats such as Adam Ray and Steph Tolev. You can catch her delivering side-splitting performances at Cap City Comedy Club with her original comedy show, Lip Shtick Battle, or performing stand-up at various venues across the city. Katie's journey to comedy is as unique as her punchlines. She's earned her bachelor's degree from semesters at sea, traveling to 12 different countries on a ship that served as her campus. She then furthered her education with the BS in advertising from Northern University. Before diving into comedy, Katie built a diverse career in marketing, starting in Irvine, California, and then transitioning to admin and account management roles in New York City, and eventually made her way to Austin, Texas. In Austin, she had an impressive 8-year career at Retail Me Not, where she managed the offshore team before briefly working in an AI-related space. Today, we are eager to explore Katie's fascinating journey, her passions, and her comedic insights. Prepare to laugh, cry, and be thoroughly entertained. Katie, welcome to your episode of David's Saturday Night Sit Back.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully not cry, but I loved all the rest of it.
Tears of joy.
Okay, yeah. I'll take that.
Tears of joy. Are you happy?
I'm so happy.
If happiness was a list of ingredients, what do you think is currently missing from your recipe that would just create perfect happiness in your life?
I mean, the one that I talk about in my stand-up a lot, and just I feel as a mid-30 person, but love for sure. I'm single out here in the Austin streets, and so I think love would not make me happy, but add to the happiness. I definitely am of the philosophy that love won't make me happy, but will help add to my life. And more money. That's always, they say money can't give you happiness, but it can buy you jet skis. And so that's what I'm trying to accomplish. Houses, jet skis, vacation homes, private jets, any of it, I'll take it. I'm willing to test the theory of how much money is too much money. But no, just like comfortably financially feeling good, and keeping, I don't know, I think I have good ingredients already, so keeping those as they are, not letting them get expired.
We might have to go down the route later on. I'll remember to bring this up for sure about what it's like to be in our 30s and single in this great city filled with tons of attractive people. And I've only known you for 10 minutes, but you seem pretty awesome. And it's
thank you.
What, I think I'm a decent human being.
Yeah, you're great.
Why can't we find love? I don't want to say what is our problem, because I don't think we have a problem, but you want to just dive into it now? You want to kick this thing off with dating?
I blame it on Cotton Eye Joe. Hadn't it been for Cotton Eye Joe, I'd been married long time ago. You know? Where did he come from?
Where did he go?
We don't know. It's a real problem, though. No, I think it is the too many choices problem, where there is so many good-looking single people that people have so many choices that they don't really need to invest much time in anybody specifically. Or they don't know what they want. That's the other one I encounter a lot.
I had two different conversations here. One was with a matchmaker, and one was with an image consultant, but she also she didn't want me to use the term matchmaker. I'm really upset with myself right now. But both of them, I just completely lost my train of thought. You mentioned too many choices. I brought up the matchmakers because the advice they gave me was to... It's gone.
something about being clear with what you want.
Thank you so much. One of them asked me, what do you want in your significant other? And I knew that no smoking, no cigarette smoking. If you smoke weed or whatever, I can snort some cocaine. That's fine. And the reason is because I don't know if you've ever made out with someone who smokes. Have you?
Yes.
Do you smoke?
No.
I was like, I'm about to offend you. I'm about to put my foot in my mouth
No,
5 minutes into this thing.
I'm cocaine, a no, but the rest I agree with you.
Yeah, it just tastes bad. You taste like you're making out with a chimney, and it's not very fun. And then it's hard to get like, romantically activated when have ash in your mouth.
Yeah, that it costs a lot too. I'm like, spend that money on me,
Yeah, it does cost
Let's
a lot.
go out. Let's do stuff.
Let's buy a jet ski.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that. And then, anyways, long story short, I only had like 3 or 4 items, and she called me out. She was like, "That's the problem. You have no idea what you want."
Yes.
I ain't like that. I don't like being called out. I don't like it when people identify my faults when I specifically invited them on my show to identify my faults.
That is fair. Are you a water sign in your zodiac?
I'm a Leo.
Okay, no. But also prideful, so understandable.
What are you?
I'm a Pisces. I'm a water sign, but I'm a Leo with the moon and rising.
Do you know off the top? I know of the signs and a little bit about them, but do you know like what your dominant characteristics are according to that?
So Pisces, I'm very emotional, creative, intuitive, but because of the Leo part, I come off as like outgoing, confident, wanting to be the center of attention type of thing, which I can see that as well. But
Does comedy scratch that itch a little bit for you, do you think?
oh, yeah. I have a theory that everybody who does comedy wants to be heard. Like, that somehow is missing that piece in them. Because I wouldn't say I have, like, childhood trauma. I think a lot of people say comedy is born out of trauma. And I feel like more and more that's not so much the case. But I think there is a little bit of a trauma in feeling that you're heard. So that's my theory.
I like that. I've heard that other theory quite a bit too, that typically comedians are like, oh yeah, the only reason I'm funny is because, my childhood was dark AF. Dark maxing was childhood. But yeah, I don't think that has to be true for all comedians. Here I am, a non-comedian, saying what qualifications comedians do or do not need. But
yeah, well, I don't think there's like one size fits all. Some of my favorite comedians, I mean, nobody has a perfect childhood if really looking back. So there's things you could pick apart, but in their eyes, they're like, yeah, I had supportive parents and nothing totally bad happened. It's just I was the baby or something.
yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, you didn't get heard. So now you're like, I need to tell millions of people what I think about sex on the first date.
Right.
So.
And then you have, I think Thad, he has a desire to be heard because he seems to, sometimes these squeaky toys go days without being touched. And then someone will come over to record, and it's like he almost knows that now my, 99% of my attention is on you. And all of a sudden, he doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah.
He gets 0.1% of my attention. So he's like, how can I get this back? Let's go get the squeaky toys.
See, he's a comedian in training.
It's real funny. Yeah. It's real funny, Thad. Sorry, brother. I'll get you a peanut butter stick in a second. Leos, I haven't read this in a long time. Natural leaders who are confident, assertive, driven, charming, warm, welcoming, love to be the center of attention, but it can also be attention-seeking, domineering, arrogant, and may struggle with criticism. I do struggle with criticism.
Me too.
If my boss is like, you are doing this wrong, I'm like, you can go yourself. It's not a great attitude, but...
I don't do that because I'm always afraid I'm going to get fired. But I also feel like I do have a good way of looking at things from multiple sides. So I'm like, no, I already looked at it from all the angles. So I already thought of that, and you're wrong that I'm wrong. You know what I mean?
I'm smelling what you're stepping in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did any of those other ones you feel were either true or false for you?
I don't feel like I'm overly domineering. I don't know if that's maybe I'm a woman or I'm more soft-spoken. But some of them, I think in my adult days, maybe not as much a leader, although, I don't know, sometimes not. It's not as important to me anymore.
Yeah.
So, but all good qualities.
They are. I think the only one I don't resonate with much is assertive.
Yeah.
But sometimes, too, I'll look up a word, and when I see the literal definition, I realize maybe I am. So if we do just do a quick little, having her showing a confident and forceful personality. I don't feel like I'm forceful.
No. But I also think people think assertive is bad, and it can be, but definitely as I'm getting older, I think being assertive can be good in that you advocate for yourself. So.
Yeah. Are you actively dating right now?
I am, well, yes and no. So I re-upped my Hinge profile or whatever. I went back on, and in the summer, I don't know if you experienced this too, but in the summer, the boys come out. They come out to see what's happening, and so I got lots of matches. I went on some dates, but I feel like I'm clear on what I want, and it's not fully lining up. So we're back at the drawing board. I would love to meet somebody in person, but that hasn't quite happened yet. So we'll see what happens.
I've hit on a few people in person now, and it's definitely a muscle to be trained, just like anything else. One, you get nervous. You get really nervous. And I don't care if they see that I'm nervous. In fact, there's this one guy, I go to a walking group on Saturday mornings, and this one guy was like, I wonder how it would come off if you even admitted you were nervous. Like if that would maybe lower the guard a little bit to be like, hey, I'm really nervous to be doing this, but like we're both shopping in HEB. I'm probably never going to see you again. I just wanted to tell you, you're very handsome. Could I take you out for coffee?
Yeah.
I've tried that a few times. It's thrown a couple guys off because they probably don't get hit on by other guys too often. But what I have liked about it is I've never had a bad experience yet. So as soon as I pay them the compliment, they're usually like, oh, dude, thanks. Like, I got a girlfriend, but like, thank you for the compliment. Like, that makes my day. And then I still feel good. Like, I don't even care about the rejection because if I can make someone's day, like, that to me is gold. That's money right there.
Well, that's good.
Would you approach someone in person yourself?
I say yes, but it hasn't happened yet. So I feel like I've been burned with I've gone for it first, but that's also, I was like younger in my 20s and just picking bad people. So now that I'm older, I would hope that I'm better at figuring it out, but I'm very nervous. And then I read this book called Getting to I Do that was written in the 80s, and she was like, if you go for it, you are the masculine energy, and you keep that energy the whole time in the relationship, and I don't want to do that. But I don't know how accurate that is in this age of what's happening. So
yeah, I was going to ask you if part of it is, if any of it comes down to gender, because I've never asked a woman this question before, you know, if that's why you haven't approached someone. But I guess that's one thing that's maybe nice in like gay land that's different from, I don't know if I asked you yet. Men? Are you interested in men?
Yes.
I wonder if that's a difference between like gay land and straight land is. But then it also becomes problematic because it's like, who pays?
Oh, yeah.
And usually It depends. For me, it depends how the date goes. So if it went really well and I had a ton of fun and I want a second date to happen, like I'm not going to let $50 stop this. So I'll
Right.
just cover the bill and we'll figure out finances later on.
Right.
If it's a bad date, I usually try to get them to pay. And I've been able to pull that off pretty consistently.
How do you do that?
So usually I just like, I either won't touch the bill or I'll just be like, well, you're older than me, or
Yeah.
there's a couple different cards I've played. I think it's been different every time. I don't have like a uniform.
Okay.
Like my line to ask people out, usually I messed it up a little bit when I told it to you. Usually I'll approach someone and be like, you're an HEB, I'm an HEB, I'll probably never see you again. Can I take you out for a drink? And then if they say no, or no matter what they say, but typically with no is what I've got now about 12 times, give or take, I'll just follow up by just saying, you are the most handsome dude I've seen all day, and I'd be remiss if I didn't at least make the ask. And then they light up, and that's
Yeah.
when they appreciate the compliment. But man, I need to drink more coffee because my head just like keeps, I'm going and I get 80% there and it's like, I wanted to deliver this home somehow and I forget where my bit was going.
But paying for the bill, the date.
Yeah, I think I was just circling back to, I guess that's the difference between like straight land and gay
Yeah.
land, is in the rules of the playing field can be a little bit different if you have two dudes or two women versus a man and a woman or whatnot.
I feel like whoever initiates the date should be at least willing to pay for the whole date. You know?
Guess that means I'm always going to be paying until I find someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they offer to split, or
And I've done that many times as well. Just like, you're going to split this?
Yeah.
Let's split this. Yeah.
I am always, if I am having a good time, I'll offer to split. If I'm not having a good time, and then I'll want them to pay for the whole. So opposite, the same. And then if we go on like multiple dates, I'll offer to pay for a date.
What do you like to do on a first date? I'm not asking for like what's the perfect first date,
Right.
but just like what's something you enjoy doing when you meet. Let's go with the Hinge example. You've matched on Hinge, you've exchanged a few messages, you guys decide to move it in person, and in your world you would love to do.
I think something kind of competitive, but not too crazy. So like mini golf is kind of fun. You can chit chat a little bit. Like what is the place over on Riverside? Cidercade.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that where it's like, you can be a little flirty, like be a little competitive, maybe get a little bit of a chance not to make direct eye contact the whole time necessarily, but it's not just, okay, we had coffee and now have a good day.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think that sitting across from each other model is not necessarily a great one, despite that it seems to be the most popular way to go on a date, at least in American culture. The last date that I went on, we decided to go to Zilker, and I volunteered to bring us coffees and whatever he wanted. And I brought the dog, and we did a few laps around the park, and then we ventured into the trail where you could see the turtles. And part of the reason I did it is because I've been going on this walking group, which you are more than welcome to join.
Yes, I love walking.
It's every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Anyone that's in Austin, you're also welcome. So come join us, and you can meet Katie and me in person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, depending on the weather, it's usually 40 to 100 people, so the groups can get pretty big. And the 3 rules are no dating, which everyone does, no selling, and bring a topic to talk about.
Okay.
And it's 5 miles. It lasts 2.5 hours, and it has become one of my favorite activities. And I've just sort of realized, like, you can get some really good conversations going when you're sort of on the move here a little bit. And so while the date did not lead to a second one, I can't speak for him. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. There were just a few things that I'll just say it was hard to get past surface level for him. Like, I don't need to know your deepest, darkest secret on the first date.
Right.
But if we have to see, if we keep reverting back to, like, what do you do for work? Gosh dang, it sure is hot out today.
Right.
Like, or, you know, I don't know. I couldn't, like, I couldn't crack that nut even a little bit. And maybe I should have given him a second. The other thing, though, was that he ended up being, 23, 24, 25. I forget exactly how old, but I have a sister who's right now 27, and one of my rules is that I'm never bringing home someone younger than my sister. So right now my age is 28 and up.
Okay. I think that's a good rule.
I think so. You like that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Also, so I'm curious about this because I feel like on straight dates, men don't typically ask as many questions as women do. They kind of expect to be asked the questions. So do you find that when you go on dates, one person is asking more of the questions than the other person?
Yes and no, and I say that because I think as a recruiter by day and a podcaster by night, I naturally accidentally go into question mode.
Yeah.
So if anything, I'm trying to regulate myself back and be like, shut up so Mike can do some of the talking here, you know? And one thing, I'm curious what you'll think about this, because it happened a few times on the walk. And this is easier to manage when you're not staring at each other, is letting the silence just be silence. So there's a few times where I didn't want to ask him another question, and so I just stopped talking, and we'd walk for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, and I just sort of waited for him to go.
Yeah, I've done that before, and I think I don't mean to say like as a test, but it kind of is a little bit to see like, do you have the capacity to be able to ask questions, and are they interesting more than, like you said, like, oh man, the weather's hot. Oh, look at that duck in the pond, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've done that before. And if it's really awkward, then I'm also like, well, this is maybe a sign that we're not as compatible as I would want us to be.
It is a test in a way. Yeah. Here's one for you. What's a question that you wish more people asked? Maybe not on the first date, just in general. What's a question that a potential romantic interest wish you asked and they typically don't?
Oh, I think this is an important one that a lot of people don't talk about until maybe it's too late. But kind of, what is your fighting style, or how do you deal with conflict? Because there's some people that like to, like take a step back and be away from the situation. And then there's people that want to solve it in that moment, or some people like just get frustrated and yell things out that maybe they wouldn't say normally. And it's good to know those things because I think like just growing up in different households and stuff, you grow up differently, and I know like when people want to take space, like that scares me more, where I want to like solve it right here because like my thoughts are like I feel like I'll spiral more with more space, but I can also understand like needing to collect your thoughts and stuff. And then also if somebody is like yelling crazy stuff, I don't know if I could come back from like, well, I really didn't mean that. I just said it in the heat of the moment. But I think there are people that like can be like, oh yeah, that's just how they are when they're mad. I don't know if that's like a healthy coping thing, but yeah, I think that's like something that should be talked about more in general in relationships.
So what you're saying is, if it's date number 4 and you seem to be picking a fight, It's because you're finding out what their fighting style is. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Totally kidding.
Yes. Why would you order that? No.
Right?
I don't like confrontation either, so I'm avoidant in that way, but it's something you're going to have to deal with.
Right. That's a good question that I've never been asked before, and I've never thought about asking, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
If someone happened to watch this episode, well, people will be watching, but if a single man that lives here in Austin watched this episode and slid into your DMs on, like, let's say Instagram after this, how would you feel about that?
I would be open, but I would say come with a good line other than hey.
Yes, please, God, come up with anything. That's the same thing in gay world is hey, hi.
Yeah. And then, I mean, definitely let's have an idea for a date. Maybe not your second line be let's go out, but, I want to see if there's a good enough rapport, but be ready with some type of date idea. I get, because of Kill Tony and stuff, I've gotten DMs from guys, which they're very complimentary, and I appreciate that, but it's I live in some other place. Do you want to go out on a date? And I'm like, where, in what world are we going on a date?
Yeah.
You live in Massachusetts and I live here. So what is happening? I don't know. It's very bizarre to me, kind of.
So that's when I've never asked someone that I guess I just wrongly assumed, that's why you shouldn't make assumptions, is that was a gay thing, because I'll get messages from people in, I shit you not, in Europe. And some of them are very handsome. I'll look at their pictures and I'll be like, damn, I am flattered that you would want to go on a date with me. But also, we would have to cross an ocean to meet.
Yeah.
And now you're just making me, angry that I could be with you if I lived in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pissed off now. If you're attractive and you live 5,000 miles away, don't hit on me.
Right.
Even if you're unattractive, still don't do it.
Well, just conversate with me, and then once you get to America, be like, oh, what do you know? I'm around the corner.
Yeah.
I didn't stalk you or anything. I just happen to know exactly where you are.
So I have a funny story for you about not quite stalking, but it's not a great story. When I first moved to Austin, I forget if it was Tinder, Grindr, it doesn't matter. One of the apps I connected with someone. Great conversation, especially since it was just over text. 'Cause sometimes it can be hard to keep a text conversation going. Seemed like a really cool guy, chatted for I think 2 days, maybe 3, and then one morning I wake up, had a message from him, open it up, it says good morning, and it says however far Dallas is away, that's how many miles away it was. So what is that, 180 maybe?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, you're a little far away, not trying to pry or anything. And really the reason I'm asking this is what we're talking about. But I said, you're a little ways away. Are you on a work trip, or what's your day got ahead of you? And he was like, no, unfortunately, I went back home. I live in Dallas, but I'd really like to meet you. So could we keep talking? And I thought he was attractive enough. I was like, let me just see. So at that time, I was launching the podcast. Life got really busy. And I just found that it was hard to even make the time to text him, and local guys as well. And I thought, until the podcast is sort of a smooth running machine, this is going to be my boyfriend. And I'm going to delete all the apps. And so I just messaged him back, and I was like, listen, dude, my life, I'm fortunate to be really busy, and I think one of my new must-haves is that we live in the same city. So thank you for the good conversation, but I would like to not continue this anymore, just for the pure reason that we live far away. And he said okay. So then we didn't talk for 8 months or something like that. I'm back on the apps. He was back in Austin for work, and he messaged me. And I said pretty quick, I was like, hey, good to see you. Do you live in Austin? He's like, no, I still live in Dallas. And I said, out of respect for your time and mine, thank you for saying hi, but I'm not interested in speaking. And I think that's how it went down. And he sent me another message and basically said something like, but I really want to. You know, always get everything you want, buddy. So
Yeah.
this next move maybe makes me look like a prick. Maybe it doesn't. But I was like, let me just end this for both of us. So I blocked him.
Uh-huh.
About 20 minutes later, he slides into my DMs on Instagram.
Oh, no.
And I was like, huh. So I blocked that. And then about 30 minutes later, I get a Snapchat from someone I don't know. And so it was like, so-and-so wants to be your friend. And that's what it was, yeah. And it was him. And so I blocked him there. And then this is not made up. 20, 30 minutes later, I get a message on LinkedIn.
Oh, no, not the LinkedIn.
Blocked him there. Then I get an email. He emails my podcast email. And the subject line said something to the effect of like, what happened to us?
Oh,
Like,
no.
there was no us.
Yeah.
There was no us.
Oh, that's crazy. Good thing you don't own a rabbit. It would have been Stu by now.
Dude. Yeah. Isn't that wild though?
That's crazy. Yeah.
He couldn't. And where I go in my head is like, in what world is he living where I respond to that email and I'm like, sorry, I blocked you on 7 other sites, but I'm ready to talk now.
Yeah. This was all a test and you passed. Congrats.
That's the Leo in me. I really like being pursued, and so if you can stroke that itch for me, we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
No wonder I'm single. This guy's messaged me 8 times. What about you? That wasn't exactly a date, but do you have a funny story about a date gone wrong?
Oh, yes. I have a bit about this, and I don't know if, well, I'll just tell you, but it's like when I first moved to Austin, I was dating, and I went on Match.com, so like, I don't know why I was thinking that, but made the effort. I was like, I'll do a more serious one. So made my little profile, and this guy and I matched, and at like 11 something, he messaged me on there and was like, do you want to do something? And I was like, dude, it's 11, so no. But like, let's do something else another time, which I should have known at that moment, like probably a crazy, but I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And so he was like, oh, there's these UFC fights coming up. Let's go to that at this sports bar down the street. And I was like, cool, I like UFC, not a problem. But if you know anything about UFC, the title fights are not until like 10 o'clock at night. And he decided we should meet at 7 o'clock at night. So that's like 3 hours.
This is going to be a long day.
Yeah. So again, like, okay, fine, we can eat dinner and like get to know each other and then watch the fights, whatever. So we get there and there's a cover because it's a pay-per-view thing. And so I get there and the guy's like, oh, it's $7. And I'm just like, well, let me wait for my date because I don't know what's happening. We'll see what. And also, like, I don't want to pay. And then he's like, I don't want to do this. So I was like, I'll just wait. So he gets there. We're like, oh, you? Yeah. And then the guy was like, okay, 2, that's $14, takes the guy's card. He's, like, visibly upset. And I was like, and then he gets his card back, and he immediately turns to me and is like, just so you know, I don't pay for girls on the first date because I'll spend like $60 on these girls and then nothing works out for me after that. And so that was like, I was like, it's $7, buddy. Plus you should know if there's a cover or not. And you wanted to do this. So like, And also, if you're buying a girl dinner and she doesn't want to sleep with you, like, that means you have a problem, not her. But again, like, I kind of feel like an asshole because it wasn't the fact that he didn't want to pay for the date. It was just the way he went about it and acting like because he pays for a date, he should get something out of it. And also, I truly just met this man. Like, we had only exchanged pretty much names, and that was the first thing he said to me. So I was like, this is not a fun so far. But whatever. He had already paid the cover, so I figured it's going to be worse if I say peace out, and he just paid my $7 cover. So again, it's dinner, so I was like, well, fuck it. I'm hungry. I'll order food. And of course, being nice, I was like, if you want some of my food, you can have some. He ate a lot, like half of it. And so I'm just like asking him questions. He's not asking me anything. I ask him like, he is a he teaches how to play the trumpet. And I'm like asking him about that. He's kind of weird about it. I'm like, what's your dream job? Like, do you want to, he's like, I want to be in the United States Marine Corps band. I don't really know why, but apparently
It's very specific.
Yeah, that maybe it's a good gig. They get a lot of jobs. I don't know. You wear a cool uniform. But he's not in any service right now. So I don't really understand how you just go from like civilian to then I'm pretty sure you have to be enlisted, but I don't know. So and then in his profile he had like this thing about conspiracy theories, and I enjoy hearing a good conspiracy theory. Like, I don't prescribe to them, but the more insane, like, tell me about it. I love it. So I was like, tell me about these conspiracy theories. And then his face gets very serious, and he's like, oh man, well, usually this doesn't go good once I talk about this with girls. Again, like, why are you putting this on your dating profile then? What? So he's like, well, I think Sandy Hook, that never happened. All those people are crisis actors. The children are still alive. All the Alex Jones shit that he got in trouble for. And then he's like, and our government is a shadow government. It's actually run by like these lizard people and Obama's like just a puppet, and the lizard Illuminati people are pulling all the strings and all this shit. And I was like, oh, okay, what a freako. And also, you want to be part of the government. So the two didn't make sense at all to me. It was very bizarre. And then we had a storm, so I was like, the power went off, and I was like, I need to go home. I'm afraid I'm going to be stuck here in a storm with you. And he got upset because it was like 9:30 and the title fight hadn't happened yet. And I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And I was like, I'm sorry, I just feel awkward. I need to leave. And he's like, it's been awkward since the beginning.
Oh.
And so that was my worst date.
Was that here in Austin?
Yeah.
Huh. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But it's a good story. And that just gave, like I said, any guys that are listening that are thinking about dating you, they just got like a ton of what not to do's from that.
Yes.
There's like 4 of them in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I often get asked this question on my dates, like, what is your worst dating experience? But a lot of the time they're like, oh yeah, I got catfished, and like the girl showed up and she was a little fatter than her pictures. But like no mention of if she was like not nice or Which I get that can be a little disappointing, but I'm like, you still have a nice lady.
Right.
It's not like she told you were a disappointment from the start and she would only pay for you if you slept with her.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
In terms of the money thing, one thing that the dating coach told me that I really appreciated, because she gave me like a big perspective shift, was just look at it as a fun time. Like,
Right.
even if you show up and the person is catfishing you, you already know this is going to be a good story for your friends later. So it's not exactly bad. And then if you are getting together for a meal, a drink, a walk at Zilker, we're going to Powder Keg, we're going to go see a comedy show, it's only going to last 60 to 90 minutes. And the other thing that I look at it too is, even if it's going like poorly, is that rejection is one of the most efficient ways that you can operate in life, because you know from that first date that I'm okay to move on from Mike and go on to Nick. And I don't have to be concerned about like, oh, but I don't know because if I'm torn, if I'm like dating two people, or that makes me sound like I'm like a cheater or something. But if, let's say I have like two first dates set up in the same week, all right? And one goes poorly, I now know I don't have to worry about this guy or cancel the next one because now I want to go on a second date. I can just move on and enjoy the next date. So I very much look at dating as an investment. You're investing your time, you're investing your energy. It's never a waste of time. You're just getting closer and closer and closer to whoever it ends you ends up being with.
I agree. Yeah, I think I got a bit out of it, so thank you very much, sir. And I learned that if I'm not having fun, just leave earlier. Like, I don't owe this dude anything. I can do what I want. Don't feel pressure to be nice and stay doing stuff when you're not having fun. But yeah, it is an experience and you should have fun and you should look at it that way. But also, if you're not having fun, say, hey, this isn't for me. And that's okay too.
Yeah. Have you done that?
I have not done that. I've never had an experience like that other than that one. I've had a guy where the date was like an hour almost exactly, and he was like, okay, goodbye. But we had other dates, so that was a little bizarre to me, that I was like, I thought for sure I would never hear from him again, because it wasn't like, hey, should we do this again? Do you want to go get a drink? It was just like, this was fun. Okay, bye. And I was like thrown, but it was fine.
May I tell you one?
Yeah.
And then we'll
tell
maybe
me.
we'll just have a whole episode about dating, and you can come back for a second episode where we talk about you. But we were going to meet for drinks at his house, and he was probably like 50, and in his pictures he was significantly smaller than me. And usually I don't do house visits for first dates because I feel like that without saying it, we're just implying like we're probably going to hook up. But I think he just said like casually, like, you want to come over for drinks or something? And I was like, you know what? I feel like I could take this guy out pretty easily if he ended up being dangerous. And even though I have no intention of sleeping with him tonight, like, I'm going to go over there. Fine, whatever. I'll go to his house. So I show up and all the lights are off. Like, the place is pitch black, including like the porch light. And so I text him from my car and I was like, hey, Mike, I'm here. And he was like, yep, the front door's unlocked. Come on in. And I'm just like, oh. And I was already scared, and I don't get scared easily, but my gut, my internal sensor was just like, ding, 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 like, you should just go. And I'm like, all right, let's just go up to the front door. So I open my door, close it, lock the car. I'm keeping my keys in my hand. I'm like ready for a quick escape. And I'm walking up, and I thought maybe the curtains are closed or something. And there's two windows on either side of the door I couldn't see any curtains on them. And I'm like, no, this house is just pitch black. So I go walk back to the front of the house, make sure the numbers are right. And I was like, it is like 861 Smith Way, right? And he was text back and he's like, yeah, 861 Smith Way, front door's open, come on in. I'm like, he's not even gonna open the door? Like, this is weird. This is like the weirdest. This clearly is a hookup, but like, I don't like the way it's going. So me just being like, maybe stupid, but also adventurous, I'm like, let's just see what happens. So I click open the door and I push it in a little bit, and then I take my foot and I just I give it a kick. Not a hard kick, but I get it to swing open all the way. And sure enough, every light is off. It is pitch black in there.
Oh my goodness.
And so I text him again, and you could sort of tell from the house, like the right side is probably living room, family room, kitchen. Left side is probably all the bedrooms. So I text him again, and I hear his phone buzz. It sounds like it's probably on like a desk or something. And I was like, I forget why I even texted him, but I texted him, and I heard the phone buzz. And then after the phone buzz, I just heard this... Not like a sigh, but I just heard him breathing, and I was like, fuck this. I got out of there so fast. I ran to my car, put in reverse, peeled out of there, called my buddy. I was living alone at the time, and my place was like 25 minutes away. He didn't have my address. I was so freaked out. I called my buddy Alex, who's like 6'4", big dude, one of those people where if you don't know him, it doesn't matter if he looks like he fights or not. You probably just shouldn't fuck with this guy. So I called my buddy Alex, and I was like, can I please come over and spend the night? I will tell you why when I get there, but just do this thing for me. Let me come spend the night. He lived like an hour away. So I drove all the way to his place, told him what happened. We threw back some drinks, played some Smash Bro, had a great night just hanging out. But I didn't even want to go back home. I was like, I need to be like far away in someone else's house while I just like shake whatever that was off of me.
Yeah, you were gonna be murdered.
Is that what that was?
Yeah. Yeah. You fought off death.
I remember deleting that one. I'm pretty sure was Grindr. I was not on the apps for months because I was just like, I'm good. I'm so good being single right now.
Oh my God. Maybe he's the Rainy Street Killer.
I would say yes, except this was in Sacramento, California.
Okay, never mind. The Sacramento River Killer.
The Sacramento River Killer. He could have been that.
I don't know if there's any bodies of water over there.
There is a river. It's very popular to float in, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to leave town was there's more. This is not the only reason, but it did sort of feel like, all right, it's summertime again, and all the exact same people are going to get the exact same sandwiches to float down the exact same river, and we have done this multiple times every summer for 30 fucking years. I got to get out.
Yeah.
I'm sick of that river. It's beautiful, especially first timers. Like if you were like, David, I have family in Sacramento. What should we do while you're out there? I would tell you to go float this river. But when you've done it 917 times, you're just sort of evaluating your life, and you're like, I'm not really developing any hobbies, meeting new people. I'm just in this rut. No offense to all the river people, but I don't think any of them listen to this. So
yeah. Well, I think it's almost the opposite with Austin. There's like so many new people here. It's like overwhelming almost. And you're like, too many. And you're like, you just last week you were living somewhere else and now you're here. I mean, I guess that's how moving works, but
yes, it is.
But it seems, I don't know, interesting, but just a little crazy and overwhelming, and I don't know.
Yeah, I have not, the only thing I've done, well, I don't want to say the only thing, but the only thing, and then I just said it again, the one thing that has been very repetitive is I've gone to a ton of hockey games.
Okay.
I've never been to one in my life, and when I went up to Cedar Park at the HEB Center and I saw the Texas Stars play for the first time, I've never had so much fun at a sporting event.
I love hockey. How it's not like our nation's national sport is very bizarre to me. I feel like it's so American. It's fast paced. You can fight.
Right.
The rules are a little bit more lax. I don't know. I think it should be America's pastime.
Someone said to me once, she was like, hockey's too boring. I prefer baseball.
No.
I'm like, that is a hot take to say out loud. Hockey is boring. I prefer baseball. It's not. Like,
you have to have skill. Yeah, so I grew up in Southern California. I was a senior when the Anaheim Ducks had their Stanley Cup win. I was a big, big follower of the Ducks for a very long time. I don't follow as closely, but hockey will always be my number one sport love. But yes, you have to have skill. It's like a tiny little puck with a tiny little stick, and you're in all this like fat gear that you have to see around. You're skating on just one blade on a slippery surface. There's large men trying to pummel you. You have to go fast, and there's like rules with offsides, and there's penalties for different things. So I think it's way more skill than people think. And I mean, people are going to hate me for this, but I think a lot of basketball is just kind of being tall and having stamina.
I will say this. If you are in Texas and you are a gay hockey player, you should hit me up.
Okay.
I would make a trip to Dallas. I would drive out there and pay for the meal.
Okay.
That's how hot I think hockey players are.
I agree. I mean, not gay, but if you are a straight hockey player and you're living really anywhere.
It's funny because my gym crush on the Texas Stars just posted a picture of him getting engaged to his girlfriend. I was like, damn it, I thought that was his sister this whole time.
Yeah, the only thing is now I feel like I would be a real cougar. I think a lot of them are like...
They're young.
Yeah, they're in their early 20s, and man.
You grew up in Southern California?
Yes.
Where?
Orange County, California, Mission Viejo specifically.
That's a really pretty area.
It is very beautiful, yes.
What do you think about when you think about childhood?
Privilege, which is good and bad, but I lived in like a nice gated community, so very safe. Rode bikes with my friends around the cul-de-sac, and they were actually like building houses as I was growing up, so like we would go ride our bikes in the dirt, and then as the houses were being built, like go explore in the houses. They really like had no security system, which looking back I was like, that was big mistake on their part. But yeah, just a lot of like neighborhood fun, and kids my age. It was very wholesome, I feel like. And also I didn't know, well, seemingly didn't know a lot of kids that were using drugs. Maybe I was naive, but I also think there's so many things to do. A lot of my friends were really into sports. Like, there was no time for drugs and that kind of stuff. Whereas I feel like if you live in a small town, there's only time for drugs.
Yeah. I remember for me, I don't think I know, I'm pretty sure looking back on it, I wasn't around drugs, but between my junior and senior year of high school, I convinced, with some other people's help, my parents to let me go to the local public school because I just hated this private little Christian institution I was going to. And so it was like day 3. No, because we knew each other already. That was a total lie. It was like 5 months in. And one of my buddies, I forget his name. I can see his face. I haven't seen him since we graduated, but I could see his face. But someone that we had become friends pretty quickly. I was in the bathroom, and he comes out of the stall, and he had been smoking weed. And this is how ignorant I am. I was just like, were you smoking a cigarette? And he's like, no, dog, it was weed. I was like, what's weed? And he's like, marijuana. And I was like, what's marijuana? And he's like, do you know what it means to get high? And I was like, oh, these are drugs. And he was like, yeah, David, I was doing drugs, yes. And I remember at the time, I was still like a fired up, born again Christian. And I come to love this dude like a brother. And I was like, Michael, can we pray about this?
Oh, no.
And he was like, brother, I love you so much. And then he just washed his hands and walked out.
Oh, that's the best response.
It was such a fun little interaction. Looking back on it, I'm just like, God, I was ignorant.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like even like in high school, I think not many of my close friends, but like people like got their parents' prescriptions and would abuse those. Or I've heard of people doing lines of cocaine in the back of the class and stuff like that. But even then I knew weed was like, meh, no biggie.
Yeah.
Where the other ones I was like, oh, what? No.
You shouldn't be fucking with your mom's Oxycontin.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, aren't you afraid you're going to get caught? I'm always afraid I'm going to get caught. And then my parents are older, so, like, they are very much like, oh, you can go to military school. Like, I don't know if it would actually ever happen, but just, like, the threat. I always took their threats very seriously.
Why do you think you took their threat seriously?
I think because, like, their parents were very, like, serious. Also, I, like, got spanked as a kid, so I think once you know, like, oh, the warning of a spanking, and then they, like, actually follow through, then you're like, maybe not test it with some, like, military school or whatever. I don't know. But I don't know. I'm just scared of authority in general. Always have been. I think maybe always will.
Are you still scared of authority?
Yeah.
Do you try to do anything about that, or is it just like something you live with at this point?
I think it's healthy in a way. I mean, question authority for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blindly follow it, but I don't know. Just to be rude for no reason is a little crazy.
Yeah. What do you, I'm going to take you back in time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this was you. What do you think of when you see this little picture?
Aww. Oh, so innocent. That is at my dad's mom's house. And if you, like, the bigger picture, I'm sitting next to my cousin. And I'm an only child. So that cousin, and I have two cousins that are very close in age to me, and they are like the closest things I have to siblings.
Is that, I think I actually might, I didn't assume. I was like, this must be family. I'm not sure what the relationship is, though. Is that these two?
Yes, those are those two. Yes.
Shout out to the cousins.
Yeah,
what are their
shout
names?
out to Greg and Carrie.
What's up, Greg and Carrie? You think they'll watch this?
I can tell them. Carrie is getting married in August, so I'm going back to Pennsylvania for her wedding, and we'll see the whole family. So that will be fun. But yeah, never experienced the love-hate of a sibling before until Carrie. So now I know.
Well, I'm assuming it was probably more like love-hate when you were younger, and then as you guys got older, it became more love as you matured and grew up and whatnot? Or is it still sort of
Still the same.
Huh.
It's our personalities are just very different, and so I think she should do what I want her to do, and then she likes to do the exact opposite of what everybody tells her to do. So it's like, even if you're trying in your best interest to come from a good place, it's like she's going to do what she wants no matter what. So you're kind of no point in saying anything, which that is frustrating to me. But as I get older, I understand more, I guess, or just back off more.
Yeah.
But so she's also very likes to keep things close to the vest. So there's things will get around the family. She's like, how did they find out? Like, you can talk about your life,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love them. They're great.
That's awesome. What do you think is outside of the fact that you've aged, what do you think is the biggest difference between the first picture I showed you and this one?
Oh, the first one is like, I'm very genuine. This one, I'm like trying to be goofy and like hard, but clearly not at all. So I think that's kind of my go-to is I like to not do a serious picture and just make it fun and weird and something not what it is.
So since that one was 2012, that would have been after high school, right? You would have been graduated
Yeah,
at that point.
that was the year after college. I moved home for a year.
What was your high school experience like? Anything noteworthy there, you think? That was gives us context as to who Katie is today?
Ooh. Probably not, although maybe a predecessor of what's happening. Like, didn't date in high school, so same as now. Except I am dating, just like don't have a significant other. I was part of Future Farmers of America and owned a pig and a sheep, or raised a pig and a sheep, which is very not common for that area of Orange County. There's not a lot of like farmland, farmy people, but made a lot of good friends through that. So that's just a kind of weird fun fact about my high school experience. And played lacrosse, and that was really fun. Started a lacrosse team, and that was cool. But I don't know, high school, I feel take it or leave it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, is it true? I had never heard of this. Not like I know everything, but I just feel like I was like, how was I ignorant that this was a thing? You went to semesters at sea and traveled to 12 different countries during your on a ship that acted as the campus.
Yes.
What is, I mean, I know what it is, but like, why do you decide to go that route? I mean, it's sort of a pointless question. It's like, why would you not? If I knew that was a thing, I would have just gone. But tell me a little bit about how that happened and what that experience was like.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about it either, actually. And then I was actually, like, in 2012, I was nannying for this family I knew. And the mom had done it in the 70s and got mail from semester at sea, and was like, oh, Katie, I think you would actually really enjoy this a lot. You take class on a cruise ship and sail around the world. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. Like, that sounds, actually not in 2012. This must, my senior year. Or, I don't know, summers between college, I guess. Because, yeah, I graduated. So it had to be before I graduated college. Anyway, but so, yeah, I heard about it through her and then looked into it and applied and loved it. It was so much fun. It was had perks that had, the cool thing about like picking one spot kind of as your study abroad is you kind of build like a family in that spot, and you like when you go back you're like, like I know people here, and you kind of have a jumping off place to travel from. But also I got to see a lot more places that I probably would have never seen or even thought to go see if I picked kind of just some place in Europe to study abroad. So I had a great time. I love cruise ships. I'm pro cruise ship. I know a lot of people are anti cruise ship, but and yeah, it was awesome. So much fun.
Do you was there any country, city, or town that had your favorite people specifically?
Yes.
Where?
Thailand has the coolest people. They are so friendly. They're so funny. They have a lot of good food. They're down to party in all aspects of the word. Like, well, we went during St. Patrick's Day, so like there's definitely some St. Patrick's Day stuff, but also like you're familiar with like ping pong shows, and
yeah,
so like the party that way, sex tourism, that kind of stuff.
Sex tourism?
Yeah. Like,
what's that?
Like it's common for like men from Europe and stuff to come and entertain some Thai ladies for like a week.
Okay, so just like like, is that like a nice way of saying like a prostitute?
Yeah.
In a way?
Yeah, like
It's much more friendlier, though. What'd you do last week, Michael? Where were you? I didn't see you at the gym. I was on a sex tour.
Yeah. I just I visited my friend in Thailand. So, yeah. I love elephants. I got to be up close with elephants. It was awesome.
What's an elephant's demeanor like? Chill?
Very chill. I feel like when they're young, they're like little dogs. And then as they get, they're kind of like big dogs too, as far as like I was feeding them bananas and it's like when a dog has a treat and they're like just more treats, more treats. But yeah, they're very cool. They're very smart and have amazing capabilities as far as they know how to grieve, and they're very interesting creatures.
Did your relationship with SeaWorld change at all as a result of the documentary? I cannot say that word. The doc Blackfin?
Oh, yeah.
Would you go back? Like, would you go to SeaWorld today?
I have been back, because San Antonio's close, and my friends have season passes, so I've been with their kid. It's a little different. It does feel a lot sadder when you go now, but they're trying, you know. I don't know, like they don't have people riding on the animals anymore, and I think they have less shows and that kind of stuff, or they're shorter. But yeah, it's I think it's almost like it's almost too sad because their reputation has been so soiled that they like really can't get it back, and they know it has been and we know it has been, so they're just like, we're doing the best we can kind of thing, which I guess is good in a way, but I don't know, it makes it more sad too that they're so defeated.
I say free them all and reduce the cost of cruises, and that can be how we experience nature. You want to go see the whales, you take out a cruise ship, go to the way the whales are. Maybe there's a submarine, you get in the submarine, pay $300 or whatever. You get to go down, see the animals. Maybe you get attacked and die, but maybe we deserve it because it's karma coming back to bite us in the butt for captivating them for decades on end. That's freedom.
Yeah, or maybe like a catch and release program, like you get a whale for a year, then you release it. Then I don't know. That's probably, the people won't like that either, but I'm trying to make it a little better for them.
Right. Back to Thailand, was there anything, so once you experience the people there and you're like, you guys are fun, you're friendly, you're funny, you cook good food, was there, not really the food part, but more of like how they acted? Did you sort of try to embrace any of that in your own life and be like, you know what, I really admire how these people live. When I go back to America, I'm going to live like this?
Oh, that's a good question. Not necessarily, only because we're on a ship and we're going so many places, you really only get like 3 to 4 days in each port. So you get a brief glimpse of the culture and everything. So I felt like I got a brief glimpse of the culture and I really liked what it had to offer. And I was very surprised of what I saw versus kind of just, I didn't really have like any hard expectations, but I think as Americans, we think most Asian cultures are very serious and like very analytical, and that's not the true of all Asian cultures or all Asian people. So that kind of opened my eyes just in that way. So I wouldn't say like I wanted to bring something back specifically from Thailand, but I think it shifted how I look at the continent of Asia as a whole. Because I think before I was kind of grouping it as Asia is China. And there's so many different.
There's a lot of countries over there.
Yeah, so many different things happening.
And so anything else in regards to, what's it called? Something at the sea?
Semester at sea.
Semester at sea. What else happened while you were doing semester at sea and visiting 12 countries?
Ooh, it just like really made me appreciative of how much diversity there is in America. I think it was kind of apparent the more you go to places that, I mean, I'm sure there are like cultural differences, definitely regional differences, but like there's a lot of the same people. Like you're not seeing different color people, and they have different religions, but a lot of countries they'll have like a big main religion. They're all eating kind of the food of their country type of thing. And so I was like, oh man, we're lucky that we get kind of a melting pot. Like it really is kind of a melting pot of all these places. And then I lived in New York for a little bit, and then I was like, really, truly, that is all of the, like, so much diversity.
That's like, couldn't be the more perfect segue, because the next question was going to be, how did you go from living in Southern California to the other side of the country in New York?
Yes. Okay. So, did semester at sea, graduated from Northern Arizona University, got my degree in advertising. When my senior year of college, I had applied for the Peace Corps, and I naively thought, I am an able-bodied person. They're obviously just going to place me automatically. That is not how the Peace Corps works. They want you to have work experience. They want you to have life experience, like all this stuff. And I was like, what? I don't know. I still think it's a little optimistic of them when I'm like willing to give up 2 years of my life for very little pay, but you do you, Peace Corps. So then was kind of waiting to hear on that, moved back with the parents, trying to figure out what to do next, and had gotten to the 1 year mark pretty much of like, okay, I've lived at home, I have a job, but it's not something I want to do for ever or for the long term. Like there was shakeups there that I was like, this is not for me. And so it was either go to grad school, move to a different city, or see what the Peace, like get in touch with the Peace Corps and see what's happening there. So as I was trying to figure that out, Carrie, my cousin, actually reaches out and is like, oh, my friend has a room that's opening up in her apartment in New York. I know you've talked about like thinking about moving to New York. Are you interested? So it kind of fell into my lap, actually. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So, thought I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to get this like cool ad job. I'm going to be a mad woman. I'm going to be like with the dough.
Yep.
And that was not what happened, but I'm glad I went. I made like my roommate Tara, we became very good friends, so that was awesome. And I'm glad that I had the experience and did it when I was young, but I wouldn't live there again unless I had a lot of money, because it's really hard.
My sister just moved to Manhattan, and just hearing how expensive that was, just simply the cost of finding an apartment, paying an agent, which was crazy to me, because in California and then again in Texas, I always just find my own apartment complexes. Or wherever it is I'm going to live. And so when she told me she had an agent helping her find a studio and that his fee was 1.5 times first month's rent, I think. It's like, why would you pay that? And she's like, because you don't, that's the only way you can find a place.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Now, we were just talking about this before we hit record, but we know that, Instagram or social media isn't like an actual depiction of our life. Mm-hmm. But after scrolling through your Instagram, I do feel like you were in love with it while you were there.
Ooh, I did a good job. I think I had highs and lows. I think I loved the energy of the city. I loved the fact that all of the things were there, as far as like all the cool new pop-ups came. The night, like people stay out late. There's things to eat late. There's always something happening, and if you really take the time and effort, there are like free things you can go to. There are arts, like I love going to musicals and stuff, although at the time I didn't have money to necessarily blow on all of those things. But there are so many things you can do that are just awesome. The food, oh my God, the food. I could like have a whole 2-hour podcast just on the food. But yeah, and I was able to make some very good friends. The problem was my friend group was so small that I felt that if they had plans or were busy, I was like left with nobody and nothing to do. Which that was, I guess, the biggest culture shock for me. Was I figured, a lot of people didn't grow up in the city, so they'll be empathetic to like, oh, you're new to the city, I was once new to the city, let's be friends. But a lot of people that live in New York grew up on the East Coast, so they grew up like 3 hours away. A lot of their friends are from high school or from college, and they move to the city after that and have jobs, and they just keep friends with those people, and they're not all that excited to bring you into the friend group and download you on the history and all that, which I understand. But
do you find that's a cultural difference between New York and Austin?
Yeah, totally.
Without being to New York, I would say I feel like that's not how it is here at all.
No, I have a lot of friends that grew up in Austin that were very welcoming and not like, oh, you're from wherever, you can't be my friend.
Yeah. So how'd you, before we get too deep into Austin, because we will talk about the comedy scene and a few other things ATX related, did you come here straight from New York? Did you go back home a little bit? You came here.
I came here straight from New York. Yeah, I was feeling like my job was not wanting to pay me what I felt like I needed to live, and I was on my own financially, so that was a big stress on my life. And like I said, I had a nice friend group, but not so big where I was like, like I need a little bit more support or a few more friendly faces. So I had a friend from college that moved here immediately after college, and then some friends from high school. Well, I'm talking about like how New York, but they had moved here after high school, and so I had at least 2 friend groups that I knew already. So I was like, okay, they can tell me accurately what they think, and at least I'll have a little bit more support than trying to figure out once I'm already there.
Right.
And so they were like, yeah, Austin is awesome. I think you would really like it. It's way cheaper. Then I read an article that said it was like the best city to find love in. So then I was like, I'm even more sold. So I was like, let's do it. Let's move.
What do you remember what year that was by chance?
Yeah, 2014.
So you've been here a decade.
Mm-hmm.
That's all, and you've been here the whole. I mean, obviously you might take trips and stuff, but for the most part, you've lived here that
Yeah.
decade. And so, this might be a stab in the dark, but in January of 2017, rather, excuse me, you met Josh Wolf, comedian and co-host of the podcast. Hey, man, did that meeting happen to plant any seeds for your career in comedy?
Oh, no, I've always been a fan of comedy and always secretly wanted to get into it, but always just was afraid for the longest time. Was nervous to like go to an open mic and then be like, how will I know if this is good or not type of thing. But had watched like Chelsea Lately and all that stuff growing up. My dad is a big comedy fan, so we would listen to like comedy CDs in his car. He was very instrumental in helping instill a good sense of humor and comedy knowledge into me. As far as like he's older, so more of the old guys. Like he's a big Johnny Carson fan, and who else? I don't know. Red Skelton and like old. But I mean, just seeing folks that I had seen on TV and then I see in person, like doing their thing, I was like, okay, this is a cool thing that is at least a career,
Right.
So he didn't necessarily inspire me, but I liked how accessible comedy was in Austin, even when I wasn't doing comedy.
Were you going to a lot of comedy?
Yeah.
Once you moved here?
I was the old Cap City. I was probably going to like 4 shows a year. And then I lived very close to Buzzmill when I first moved here, and there's always comedy at Buzzmill. Go Buzzkill, shout out Angelina and Carlton.
Do you remember your first open mic or performance? What was the first one?
Yes. So I took a comedy class because, again, I was nervous. So I didn't want to perform in front of strangers, a group of strangers, and not get feedback. That was my biggest thing, was like, I want to know how to improve without with good criticism, like constructive criticism versus like laughs or no laughs, or like dudes being like good set or not, or you use this tag or something, because some of it's helpful, some of it's just preference. So like in February, my birthday's in March, I was like, for my birthday I am buying myself 6 weeks of comedy classes, and did that. And that, I mean, I'm friends with my teacher now. She makes it very easy, as far as it's just like you show up, you get on stage, you talk about 3 things you love and 3 things you hate. And really it's just like overcoming just talking into a mic at first. But I feel like once, and I had thought of jokes and written them down, so it's not like I was starting from nowhere, but I think having, call it a crutch maybe, helped a lot. I think when I was done with that, I was better than I would have been had I just started at open mics.
And then is that after those 6 weeks of classes was over, is that how you started just working that comedic muscle, was just doing as many open mics as you could?
Yeah, so the 6 weeks ends with a showcase, so I invited friends. It was taped. And then, I would, like, from then on, just going to mics as much as possible. I feel like a lot of people kind of fall off, but I was like, no, this is like something that I really, really enjoy. So, I've like taken little breaks, just like COVID and stuff. Obviously it was hard to do comedy during that time, but even then I did comedy. But since I took the class, I have not taken like a major break from comedy.
Was that in 2019, the classes?
Yes.
Okay. You said you really enjoy it. What do you enjoy about it?
I mean, I think this is kind of cliche, but it does kind of feel a little bit like therapy in a way. I don't know. I just feel like authentic. I like making people laugh. I think I like bringing joy to people. I like having a different perspective maybe than people would have thought about. I like complaining on a public way, maybe in a funny way, hopefully in a funny way. And again, just the being heard thing, Sometimes you feel like nobody's listening, and then you get a mic in your hand and you're like, well, at least for 3 minutes, people are going to hear what I have to say.
Yeah. Someone told me, I had a couple comedians on back in May, and they thought this was very kind of them to say, but they thought I was really funny.
You are funny.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think I can be funny one-on-one with someone else, or in this case, there's 3 of them, so in a small group setting. But they invited me out to Banana Phone with them, and they were like, you should get up on stage and do a bit. And I said, no.
They are bad people.
Why did we talk about this on the phone, or was this someone else?
Yes, but
why are they bad? Why is this for a few people thinking about getting into comedy? Why is going to Banana Phone a bad idea for your first gig?
yes, don't go to Banana Phone for your very first time. Banana Phone was great. Shout out Candace. I love Banana Phone in general, but as a first time, not a great idea. First, you only get a minute, which is not a lot of time in general. And then 2, as soon, like truly, the second you are done with that 1 minute, people start hurling insults at you for about 5 minutes, or possibly 10. So, and you can rebut them, but again, if you're new, A, it's a blow to your ego, and B, like, you're not prepared to have comebacks at all. It's hard. Roasting is a whole different muscle. I have done 2 roast battles. I'm not very good at it. I want to get better. It definitely helps when you know the person better. I think roasting somebody you don't know is harder, but also that means you're a good roaster if you can roast somebody you don't know.
This might be an ignorant question because I'm not a comedian, but have you ever considered a comedian where you know of each other, where like maybe you've performed on the same night, but you're not like buddies, you don't know each other intimately, and thought about being like, hey Bradley, I want to get better at roasting. We don't really know each other's material all that well. Could we get together sometime for a private roast battle to just work that muscle of like intuition and coming up on the spot and not getting flustered at the insults? Is that a good idea to go about being a better roaster?
Ooh, I've never thought of like a private roast battle as far as like preparing, but sorry, I'm stammering, but I think some roasters write with a few people, and so I think I would adopt that a little bit more as far as like getting a group of folks that I know are better at it and bouncing my ideas off and saying, how can we make these better? Not necessarily like stealing their jokes or using their jokes, but more of just like, help me make these more roasty.
Yeah. I've heard of this being done. It seems like a great idea.
Yeah. But I think you're not wrong. Like, I think coming up with rebuttals are good, and then also preparing yourself with what you think they will roast you is not a bad idea.
Yeah. Because I think, and again, this could be me being ignorant, but no matter what the setting, I feel like getting made fun of is hard. And this could be coming from a place where I got made fun of a lot in high school. So my problem with Banana Phone is in high school, before my senior year, when I was at that private Christian school, it was only about 300 people. So each class, freshman versus sophomores, et cetera, was like 60 to 80 people. And so everyone knew everyone because the school was so small. And I just always felt like I was the person where I'd be standing there and everyone would be saying things that would make each other laugh. And I didn't really know why it was funny, but I also wanted to make them laugh. So I would be desperately trying to come up with something, and then I would say that thing, and then they'd all be like, "You're fucking stupid."
Oh, no.
And it was a little bit meaner than that, but just like the idea of putting yourself in a situation where you know you're going to be made fun of. First, I'm just talking about just me, right? Not comedians as a whole, but just me. That seems like a terrible environment. But where I was going with that was, even if being made fun of isn't a trigger for you, I feel like in a roast battle, like, no one enjoys necessarily being insulted. And so it almost seems like it is like something you might have to, it might be a good thing to practice of just like, yeah, I know that they're always going to make fun of me because of my beard or because of my baldness or because I'm 7 foot or like whatever the fucking thing is. Like, it might be a good thing to work that muscle behind the scenes. So when you go on stage, it's almost like building up, not armor, but I don't know, building up the muscle.
Yeah. I don't know. I think in some ways, yes. I think in some ways it can get in your psyche. Like Lisa Lampanelli, like, I don't know if she quit comedy because of roast battle, but not roast battle, but because of roast, but she like stopped being on roast and did like lap band surgery and a lot of stuff because she was on roast and she was very good, but she was getting a lot of like fat comments, and it's like fun for a few roasts, but then when you get them for like 10 roasts, then you're like, wait, so am I actually really this fat type of thing? So I think some of it is being prepared, but I think you also have to, I don't know, have a very strong mind and realize, I don't know, it's just for the jokes, but it can creep in for sure.
Do you feel like you have an alter ego or some sort of different version of yourself when you're on stage versus when you're just going about life?
I wouldn't say alter ego, but I do feel like I'm probably my most authentic on stage. I feel like in life I'm quieter and more people pleasing and probably not my friends might disagree, but not the in front of strangers, not the first to state my opinion, where on stage I'm still more soft-spoken, but like my comedy is about like what I think and my experiences and how I view life. So I feel like it's more take charge, and this is my view of the world versus I think when I go throughout the world, I'm kind of like observing, which I think is also a comedian thing. We observe to then spew it back.
Similar question to the Thailand question. Is there any part of you where you try to take the authentic version of you on stage and implement that when you're walking through life? Or do you like how you appear when you're off stage and therefore there is no need to mesh the two worlds together, if that makes sense?
Oh, yeah, I think I wish I had more confidence off stage or just confidence in my abilities. I think that's something I'm working on in general as far as like when I'm on stage, I feel very in control. And as soon as you get a laugh, you're like, oh, I'm funny as fuck. Like we're good to go.
Yeah.
But when you're not performing and you're not getting like DMs being like, hey, do you want to do my show? You're like, am I funny? Do people like me? I don't know. At least that's how I feel. I don't know if everybody else experiences that, but with social media, it gets hard because you're seeing all your friends be on all these things and you're like, oh, I would love to also do that thing, or oh, I did reach out to this person to try to do something, but they never got back to me, or, you know. So it's hard. I mean, I think it's always been that way as far as it feels very like competitive, although it's really not, because it's not like if they got that spot, I would have got, like if they didn't get that spot, I would have gotten that spot type of thing, because like who knows what would have happened. But the mentality a little bit, because it's kind of a solo thing, feels slightly competitive. And I think because showbiz is involved too, they've made it seem like there's a limited amount of room at the table. And so that's kind of how it feels. But really, like, you can do anything with anything.
Yeah. I think that's natural that a lot of us struggle with that when we're trying to accomplish something. I remember in school, there is this guy who every day came to campus in a suit. I had no idea who he was, never talked to him. But in my head, I was always comparing myself to him and thinking like, oh, he probably gets better grades than me. He's probably liked by more people than me. And then on the flip side, I would also like judge him and be like, that guy's probably a piece of shit. And that's why he's wearing the suit is because, you know, he's hiding that he's a shitty person.
Yeah.
And so I would just have all these thoughts about the stranger who I never met, just like going wild in my head. And so I think, you know, in our teens, 20s, 30s, probably for most of our lives, I'm sure there's a part of us where we get into that comparison mode. Do you have anything you do to try to get yourself out of that mode? Or like, I think you said a great example was like, oh, well, because David got that spot at Comedy Mothership. If he hadn't, it's not like I would have got it by default. But yeah, just to go back to the question, do you do any, when you find yourself comparing or feeling like it is limited, like, oh man, am I never going to get my spot? Or what do you sort of do to just to not do that? Do you have any exercises you go through?
Not currently. I'm trying to get like in a meditation practice. I think that will help just quiet the mind a little bit and get rid of the chatter, and try to, I believe in like the law of attraction, so try to attract things versus like concentrate on what not versus. So that's what I'm focusing on at the moment. But also just be grateful for like when you get off stage and you're at an open mic and somebody's like, hey, great set, regardless of if they really I mean, I think like audience members come up to you and they really have like no reason why they would say great set or not, other than they really liked it. So it's like, don't just take those for granted and really take it in and be appreciative of it for yourself, for self-validation, or like to be like, yeah, we're doing something.
Yeah. In your opinion, what do you think your best show to date has been so far?
Oh, is that bad that nothing's like truly coming right off the top of my head?
Or maybe even not best, but was there ever one where you just remember like wow, I really got like the whole room laughing this time, like that was a first? Or any maybe not a show like an entire show, but like a moment where you were just like, I fucking crushed it.
Okay. I opened for, I think it was this time. I opened for Michael Palisak. He's like a cleaner comedian. But I was hosting at Cap City Comedy Club, and we were in their smaller room, which is a great room just in that the laughs are easier. But like I was transitioning from one joke to another, and you just hear this older guy being like, "She's good," and I was like, "Hell yes." I stopped the show and I was like, "Can I please record you saying that? This is all I need in my life." But yeah, that was like a standout moment for me for sure. But I love performing in that room, definitely. And then even like my show, Lipstick Battle, my first show ever I did was a lot of fun. I had a lot of my friends come out to that. And then we moved it over to Cap City Comedy Club. And the first show I had there, a lot of people came out to that and showed support. And I just really love putting that show on and have a fun time hosting. And so that's always a treat for me as far as it doesn't feel quite as I feel a little bit more relaxed.
The lipstick show started in January 28th, 2022. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Why'd you start it?
So I felt like I was seeing some gaps in what was being presented in the Austin comedy scene. So I was like, well, instead of complaining about it, create what you want. So I felt like I wasn't seeing a lot of like diverse lineups. There wasn't a lot of women on lineups. I felt like I wasn't getting as much stage time. So, and I wanted something different than just like, okay, we're going to do comedy and that's it. So every show I try to have at least 2 ladies other than myself. And then I try to get like people of different backgrounds and different POVs. So, you know, all the audience members can have somebody that they're like, okay, I had like somebody I liked and could relate to versus like all 6 white bald men, which I have seen a show like that. So, which is fine. There are 6 funny white bald men, but are their jokes going to be all that different? Maybe not. So, and then I like to dress up and be silly and do stuff like that. So that's the ending part of it is after all the comedy, the audience then votes for who they want to see lip sync battle me. So it's kind of like the Jimmy Fallon version where I do one song and then they do another song, or like the Paramount Plus, whatever, the lip sync battle show that happened. So I dress up usually and do a lip sync or weird and bizarre and try to dance because usually I forget the words. So the dancing distracts from that, and then the audience vote that goes after, and it's a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. Is it still going to this day?
Yeah, it's on hiatus while Funniest Person in Austin is happening at Cap City, but it is still going.
Shout it out. When is it back? Do you know?
There's not a date yet, but keep an eye on capcitycomedy.com.
Okay. And this is also a good time, just in case I forget later, which I would feel terrible at. Where can people find you? If they want to follow you, see you live, what's the best way to catch your shows?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram at It's Me, Katie Felton. That's the best way to find me. I post shows. I teach a comedy class on how to host. So if you want to learn how to host, I do have experience doing that. So Yeah, take the class at Merlin Works. And we also have an open mic if you're like, you know what, I don't care about hosting, but I want stage time. It's a very fun, supportive mic. So the link for the sign up is also in my bio.
Sweet. And I will put it in the show notes as well. So if you missed any of that, just scroll down a little bit and you can click on her Instagram or the link, or you could go over to the Instagram where the link again will be, but it should be very easy for y'all to hunt down. Do you feel like the lipstick battle has been instrumental in your own comedic development? Like, if obviously we can't look into a crystal ball, but let's say hypothetically you had never started it, do you think you'd be at a different place, a dramatically different place today, if you hadn't?
Oh, that's a good question. Possibly. I think it has definitely helped my hosting skills, which I think is an important skill to have, and helped me with my relationship in like the comedy club scene, as far as I was able to work with some professional comedians, but some really cool folks. And because I have had the experience hosting and I'm comfortable doing that, I think Cap City was like, okay, like, you're funny, you have a good set, but also you know how to host, and we feel comfortable throwing you out there and everything. So I think it's helped with that. I think it has helped me come up with jokes kind of more on the fly, because I'll try to come up with a few like intermittent jokes between people. But other than that, I don't know if it's changed my comedy all that much.
That's fair. Do you feel like in some ways, we were talking a little bit earlier about like having a little bit of a limited mindset, but from like a practical standpoint, I've heard a lot of comedians have moved here. Do you feel like if we had even more comedy clubs, that would help? Or in just your own personal opinion, do you feel like with what we got right now, there's a pretty decent flow going where a new comedian could come in, work some stages? And so, just the short version of that question is, do you think we need more clubs, or are we at a good spot right now? Or would more clubs not be the solution to, could the comedy scene be quote unquote better in Austin from the comedic perspective, not the viewer?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought, I've thought a little bit. I don't know if I think we need more clubs per se. I think I would say shows are always good. And I think I like a bar show. I think it makes it more accessible to the public. Like that might be their favorite place they go. They might stumble into it. That kind of thing. Sometimes they go bad, but most of the time they're better than you expect. And I also think it makes you a better comedian, because then you're kind of putting up with people eating during your set, and people talking and all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say necessarily clubs. I think it's just the nature of the beast that clubs tend to, at some point, have their favorites that they then put on rotation, and those are the people that pretty much work there, and some new people get in, but it's kind of limited. So I would say clubs are a little bit more gatekeepy versus showcases. Usually they're a little bit more regular, and they're popping up everywhere. So if some producer doesn't like you, you can start your own club. Your own showcase at a bar down the street.
Yeah.
So.
Are you doing comedy for full time, or do you still have your hands in the business world a little bit?
No. Yeah, I am not full time. Although, like, it it is one of my side hustles. So I teach, but I was corporate for a really long time and then got laid off, and now I'm a special ed teacher or teacher assistant, and then also do private care for a special needs girl.
You know, I feel like I combed through your what the public information I could find about you pretty well, and I didn't pick up on that anywhere.
Yeah, I haven't updated my LinkedIn yet, so.
Do you how do you enjoy the work with the being the you said you were an assistant to the teacher for the special ed class?
I enjoy it a lot. It's a lot of fun. It keeps you on your toes. We like the teacher and the teacher assistant I work with, we crack jokes a lot. So I think that's a fun part of the job too, is like that kind of helps me just let off steam and do some comedy too.
Yeah.
Not like truly, but my students are, a lot of fun, and the program is really cool. They're adults, so it's after they've graduated high school, but they have 3 extra years, and we teach them some job skills and try to find them part-time jobs out and about.
You like it, it sounds like.
Yeah,
That's
it's a lot of fun.
Let's say if you were to imagine your life 10 years from now, what would it look like? What would you like it to look like?
Ooh, I would like to do comedy full-time, be a professional comedian, touring comedian, be married, have a child or 2, own a home. I don't really know in what part of the country that looks like, but yeah, be happy, be doing what I'm passionate about, and yeah, I think all of those things are things that I would be passionate about.
Outside of Austin, is there like a place to be if you're a comedian, or other like, is there like 3, 4, 5 really hot spots in the U.S. that it's just like, duh, yeah, you should probably spend a few years there if you're trying to get into the scene?
I mean, New York, LA are the obvious ones.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
They're both very different, I find. I think LA is very much about your following, how many like Instagram followers you have. I don't find the comedians that come from LA have as strong of punchlines. I don't think their jokes are quite as clever. I think they think we are way more racist and vulgar, which is probably true. But I've also heard LA, like, crowds are really easy to laugh, so I also can maybe understand why their jokes are not as strong as you would think. And then New York, I think they have really clever jokes. I think I don't know. I don't know too much about the New York comedy scene, but from what it seems like, it's kind of like it's harder to break into, and you have to be kind of well known to like do the good spots. So it's less about followers and clout and that kind of thing, but you're kind of starting from the bottom again.
For the LA comedians, when you said that they think that we might be more racist and vulgar, did you mean like Texans, or did you mean comedians in Texas?
Comedians in Texas.
Now, do you think the comedians in Texas are actually racist and vulgar, or do you think that comedians in Texas will just make jokes about anything, because at the end of the day, it is comedy and they're just joking? And like, for me as an audience member, I've never actually thought, when I've been in at comedy clubs, I've laughed my ass off about like jokes, like quote unquote negative jokes about gay people, because I know that they're not actually making fun of me or anyone in the LGBTQT community. They're just making a punchline that they think is funny, and I find them fucking hilarious myself. Do you think the LA comedians almost, like, maybe LA is a more conservative town where the comedians can't really get away with that, and so they don't really believe that about us? Maybe there's almost like a little bit of jealousy of like, man, I wish I could say that joke in LA, but I'd get fucking canceled in a second if I try to pull that off.
I think there is some of that. I think they are a little jealous and or they're very aware of the industry and the eyes that are watching them, where like we don't really have that here. There's less of a something will be taken away from you if you fuck up type of thing. But also, I think take it or leave it, you know, Joe Rogan very publicly and on a huge platform has said how Texas is a great place to be because you can say whatever the fuck you want and people are into it. So I think it's brought a lot of great comedians, and I think it's brought a lot of comedians that want to kind of abuse that thing a little bit. And so don't think that it's a sweeping that Texas comedians are racist or any Islamophobic, whatever. But I do think there are some comedians that are regulars at the Comedy Mothership that do lean into the extremist and kind of that lane.
Yeah.
And so the newer comedians see that and are like, well, if they're in the club that I'm told is the best club in the world, then I need to do that thing to get into that club.
Who are the eyes that you mentioned that are on the LA comedians more so than that maybe don't have their eyes on comedians in Austin?
I think there's, well, like Netflix execs and I don't know. I think like TV executives and things like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I do. You mentioned earlier that it's an art, and it is, because I remember there was one show where it was, I'm sure you've been to one of these, but it almost felt like a speed dating a little bit, where each of the comedians got about 8 to 12 minutes, I believe. And so the show was 90 minutes, and we probably saw like, however many, what would that division be? Probably like 9 comedians, give or take. I really liked it because it was longer than a minute. Because like you said, that's hard to be, for anyone to be funny in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
But you also didn't necessarily need to see the full bit. You know, you got 10 minutes and then it's like, man, Katie Felton's funny. Like, now I want to go see the full thing. But there was one guy that got up in particular, and his bit was mostly about race, and I felt he was bombing so hard. And I was like melting in my seat for him, just like in pain at like, oh, he's trying, but he really is just coming off as slightly racist right now, and maybe he should stop. Maybe he should read the room that no one's laughing and everyone's drinking faster. And we're all just like waiting for this to be over so we can start laughing at funny shit again.
Right.
It was one of the more painful moments I had as a viewer in the comedy world in Austin.
It is a very fine line, I think, especially in Austin in particular, because we are a liberal city. I think people hear just a race or a word being put out there sometimes and then just automatically turn off versus really listening to the context or how it's being said, or if the joke is smart, or if it's a personal experience. I've had that happen before where, I have jokes about dating black guys, and I feel like sometimes people don't want to laugh because I'm talking about a different race, but I'm like, it's my personal experience. And then I have black comedians that'll yell out that's a good joke, and vouch for me. Or I've had a friend that was talking about his experience with a trans person, not in a negative way necessarily, just like they matched with a trans person, and I forget what happens, but it wasn't like transphobic. But these people heard that just pretty much trans, and like didn't even let him get anywhere with the joke. And it's like, A, he's telling a true story, but B, like, if you would have listened, it's not against anybody. But then also on the flip side, I do think people are like, well, free speech, I can say what the fuck I want. And then it's like, you have no real authority to speak on this if you're just making observations that are racist and not funny.
Yeah. I remember one comedian was talking once about how I'm trying to remember who it was, and when I say it, maybe you'll know what this was from. But he was talking about a time when he was making fun of handicapped people on stage, and a couple members in the audience booed him. And then at that exact same show, at the end of it, a girl in a wheelchair had got her way to the front, and she was in tears, and she gave him a huge thank you for making a joke about handicapped people, because she's like, I've never been to a comedy show where I was included, and I felt included. And I mean, I was like, that's such a beautiful perspective of just like, that she is at a place where she has learned to laugh at least jokes, and was probably laughing because she's like, yeah, that's totally true. Like, he's spot on, 100%. And then that she felt like she was brought into the show for the first time. I'm like, that's awesome. And the people that were booing him probably were not handicapped. And so like, that came to mind to your point, that they just heard handicapped, and these non-handicapped people were immediately like, no, we shouldn't be making fun of this. But think about it from the person who's actually in the wheelchair. Like, that made her week. That made her year. She was so happy. She was so happy she was crying.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It's always funny when people that are not even that thing are like, wow, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. But comedy is, subjective, so not everybody's going to like you, and it is you got to throw pasta at the wall. Some of it will stick, some of it will not. So, yeah. I mean, that's also, I think, audiences have to be a little bit forgiving in that too. And I think that's something people forget a lot, is like, we're just trying things. This is not necessarily the final product always.
I'm just trying to bring some joy to your life.
Yeah.
Let me bring the joy.
This is just an idea I had. I thought it was funny. Maybe not this way, but it is funny. And it will be at some point. Woohoo!
Katie Felton, is there anything that you wanted to talk about tonight that we've not brought up yet?
Your dog put himself to sleep. That's so cute.
It could be 100+ degrees outside, and he just loves being under blankets.
That's how I am too. The power of a weighted blanket. I think everybody should get one.
Game changer to your sleep schedule.
Yeah.
Or not your schedule, your sleep quality. Thank you. Yes.
No. Not really. I mean, I'm watching Love Island. I'm really obsessed with that. I'm obsessed with reality TV, and not enough people watch it for me to have jokes that people relate to, and it makes me sad.
And I would be one of those people, and I apologize that I do not.
It's okay.
I watched, during COVID, I was unemployed, and I think it was Love Island, and I did binge watch through one season and was incredibly entertained. Mm-hmm. And then when I started the next season, I got maybe 2 episodes in, and I was like, I'm good. Yeah. Not because it was bad, just because for some reason the one season itched an itch, and I didn't need more than that.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like some casts too maybe like go better than others and that kind of thing. So they're not always going to be stars, But This season is great. I can't get enough. I love also too that it's like every day, except for one day. So that's fun. And the commentator is a comedian. I think he does a great job. So shout out to Love Island. But I think just more people need to rot their brain with reality TV is really what I'm saying.
I did have one question for you in
Yes.
regards to TV. I forget what the post was talking about, but you're a pretty big fan of Stranger Things, aren't you?
Yeah.
Do you have, so first off, we might talk some spoilers here, but the last season's been out for a couple years, so don't get mad at us if we spoil something in this conversation. Do you have any predictions for the final, or I'm assuming they're only going to make one more season, but do you have any predictions for what might happen next season?
I mean, they got to beat everybody, right?
Yeah, yes, they do.
mean, that's how you got to end it.
Because I feel like the sort of spider thing that we keep seeing in the Upside Down, the way it ended, like in the last like literally 30 seconds, I feel like that thing finally got up to
Oh, yeah.
the non-Upside Down.
You're right. I think so.
So I think we're going to see Elle battle that.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we learned that number 1 was the, like, scary guy. And then the season before, we found a few other numbers. But they really didn't revisit a lot of the other kids that were in the program. So maybe there's, like, a unification of all of them to come together to really close the gap or, I don't know, something. But I think we need more of the folks in the program. And I don't, well, 11 lost her powers too, right?
Did she lose them again?
I can't remember if they were gone or she got them back.
Well, remember how she did, but then they brought her to that underground place where her papa came back and they helped her get them back.
Okay.
But did she lose them again after that battle with one?
I think she, like, used them all.
You know what? I might literally, after you leave, just, like, rewatch the last 10 minutes of the finale, just because now that's going to bug me.
You can watch, like, a YouTube recap of everything.
That's a better idea. Okay, you're smarter.
But, I don't know, we need, like, some good throwback music that everybody will come behind.
Yes.
So it was Kate Bush and what was it, Metallica?
Mm-hmm.
And it will still take place in the 80s, right? Or maybe early 90s by this point. So maybe some like Savage Garden or Nirvana or I don't know, but I'm excited for that at least.
I was really bummed Eddie only got one season.
I know, I was bummed about that too.
He was so good. A lot of the characters in the show are so good, which is why we love it. But I was like, just one season for Eddie. I guess that was the same with the boyfriend in season 2 that got his stomach ripped out. Bob.
Oh, yeah,
Bob only got one
Bob.
season. That was a bummer. I think Eddie was a bigger disappointment than Bob was for me, anyways.
Same. Yeah, and I forget his actual name in the show, but they call him Toothless. His nickname. Dustin?
Harrington's little like minion, not minion, but
Dusty.
I think that's Dusty Buns.
Yeah, I think he didn't have as big of a role this last season, so I'd like to have him kind of have a comeback season. I like his character a lot.
Can I throw a hot take at you?
You're not a fan?
No, it's Stranger Things related, but not Dusty.
Yeah.
And it may have been the most recent season, maybe the one before, but remember when Hopper was in Russia and the wife or the mom went and rescued him? I didn't care that they brought him back to life. That was fine. I thought that entire storyline could have just been taken out of the show.
Yeah, true. But I like the weird guy.
Oh, the bald one with the karate skills?
Yeah.
He's cool. I was like, you guys could have brought him back any other way, removed it felt like a less is more sort of situation. Like we didn't need this whole other storyline in Russia or Ukraine or Antarctica, wherever they were, where they spent a whole season rescuing him. We just didn't need that.
Yeah, I guess well, that's the thing is maybe I'm just forgetting, but it's like they still haven't totally connected the dots, it seems like, to Russia with the experimentation. Like, I guess it was ordered by Russia for the experimentation is what we're supposed to figure out, or maybe they ended up saying, but like Russia's one of the bad guys,
Yep.
and then the scientists are also some of the bad guys.
I think you're right. And if you guys want to fact check us and write to sitbackwithdavid@yahoo.com, or just comment on the YouTube video, just do that, because then everyone can see your comment and y'all can engage with each other. But yeah, I don't think they've connected. We're getting closer to Russia's involvement, but I don't think there is any clear, like, this is what's happening yet.
So
that'll be in the final season, hopefully.
And the fact that they were at the mall was really bizarre. Like, the Russians were running some weird underground mall operation.
And America just had no idea that they had a whole freaking base under there.
No, not true.
Not true.
We would have known.
We would know. Yeah.
Especially during the Cold War era in the 80s when we were really scared of Russia. Right?
Yeah. That battle for Star Court, though, where they were throwing the fireworks at the thing, that I think that was in the entire show. That's my favorite scene. That was such a cool battle.
Yeah. I loved it. Also, I think 11 needs to have better English skills. I feel like she kind of had it for a while and then, like, went back a little bit. I don't know. It seems like in some ways she was good, and then in some ways she was, like...
Almost like she receded a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. I just hope they finish strong.
Yeah.
I feel like they've done a really good job. The most recent season, which I think was 5, let me caveat this by saying I think it was amazing, but I think they lost a little bit of their mojo. Maybe it was because of the Hopper and Russia story that I feel like that. But I just hope that, like, maybe there should only be one more season, do it strong, and then cut it off while you're still ahead. Like, tie up all your loose ends, do a good job tying them off, and then just stop.
Yeah, we don't need another Game of Thrones final season.
No. Maybe I'll start a mini podcast where I'll find a few people who are obsessed with Stranger Things, and every week we'll do a recap of an episode.
That'd be fun.
Be a cool way to get new listeners.
Yeah.
And then that might transfer over to the main pod of David's Saturday Night Sit Back.
Yeah.
Would you want to make a guest appearance for that if I end up doing it?
Yeah, certainly.
You'll do that one week?
Yeah.
All right, right on. Cool.
Stranger Things. I don't know.
I don't know either. We'd have to... Did you watch Yellowstone?
No.
You don't need to, but so someone did... I'm stealing someone else's idea. The main family in Yellowstone is the Dutton family. Mm-hmm. And so they started a podcast called The Dutton Report. And so I love that show. And I think I just went on Spotify and I just put in Yellowstone podcast and I found it. So I think if we called it, like, obviously I'm not going to call it like the 11 report.
Oh, Hastings report. Because they are in Hastings.
Hawkins,
yeah.
The Hawkins, I'm literally jotting that down when you leave. The Hawkins report. That's not bad. That's pretty damn good. All right. Well, before I ask you my final question, if you, the audience, have joined us for this 2-ish hour conversation, I'm assuming you must have liked it. So please do me a huge favor. It's actually going to be 3 favors. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then go give the pod a 5-star review on Spotify, and then go give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And if you do these 3 things for me that only take a few seconds of your time, my promise to you is that I will continue to find you great guests and to make the show bigger and better for you, the audience, and we'll keep doing this for as long as I am able. With that being said, I've started a new tradition on this show where I take, in 2024, where I take questions from other podcasts that I really like, and I ask them, my guests, to see how you guys might answer them.
Okay.
And the question that I have for you is, dear guest, are you in love with life, and is life loving you back?
Oh, this is one that changes daily, so or it's cyclical. But for the most part, I would say I am loving life. And I would like to think that, or no, I think I know I'm like a lucky person. I've had mostly good experiences in my life, and I think I attribute that to putting good out in the world. I really like that quote. I don't know, like, it's from a Paul McCartney song, but and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. No, well, that's a good one too. But I think, like, if you put good out, you also get good back. So I think the universe is loving me, and I'm loving it, and I'm learning how to deal with the stressors better. And I think the love will grow. And it just, as you get older, I think, you know, you care about the bullshit a lot less.
Yeah.
So that makes loving it easier.
Oh, I wonder if you'll remember this, posting this, but this is a quote that you put on your page by Rainer Maria, Rilke, Rilke? Sort of should have practiced this one before saying this. Do you know how to say that name? Rilke?
I don't. When was this post?
I don't know.
Okay.
Between 2012 and today.
Okay.
Be patient towards all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves. Do not now seek the answers, which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live with them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions.
Oh, deep. I'm so deep.
You're very deep.
Look at me, Instagram Katie.
But now I'm going to go like the opposite of deep and read you one more thing from your own Instagram page. Let's see if you remember writing this stunner of a joke. What do you call a dinosaur that gets in car accidents?
A crashosaur? I don't know.
T-Rex.
Uh-huh.
Womp, womp,
Wah,
womp.
wah.
But it made me chuckle when I saw it. It was like you posted in and out, you posted with your friends, you posted something in New York, and then it was that joke, and I just it got me because it came out of nowhere, and it's a classic kid joke. Like, it's funny, you know. And I'm still a kid at heart, so I laugh at shit like that.
Oh man.
Oh, man.
My Instagram. What a fun time.
All right, everyone. Well, if you live in Austin, keep an eye on her Instagram page. I know I am. I will be at a lipstick battle in the future. You will see me there.
Come.
I'll give you a heads up when I'm coming. I'll try to see you at something else before then because we don't know how long that's going to be on hiatus for. But in the theme of this episode, if you live in Austin or really any city with comedy, go support the comedians. You're going to have fun. Get your friends together. Get your family together. Go to choose a comedy club of your choice and go laugh and have a good night and support these people who are trying to bring more joy into the world. With that being said, I hope that you all stay healthy, stay happy, and have a good Saturday night. Bye, everyone.